I'm here to prove.
Right, hello and welcome back to another Let's Talk. I'm joined with the lovely Brooke, who's going to tell us all about herself in America and the stuff that she's been doing over the past few months with herself. Hi Brooke, how you doing?
What's up, Jay? How are you?
I'm fine. Eventually, now that we've got everything sorted and we're doing a take two of this. How are you?
I am currently here in Washington State, which is like in the the northwest corner of the US. So I'm home visiting family right now for about I think 2 weeks, and then I'm heading back down to Los Angeles to get out of this small town that I live in.
You've recently been backpacking or road tripping?
Yeah. So I was just on a week-long road trip with a friend of mine. Him and we started in LA, and then we just he's from Oregon, and so we drove up the coast to his place, and then we drove up to my place, and he dropped me off at home and then drove back down.
Oh, brilliant. It was a nice little road trip for the pair of you.
Yeah, it was so much fun. One of the things that we did was we went electric longboarding in San Francisco, where we took electric longboards up and down the hills in San Fran, but mine ran out of juice when we got all the way to the top of the hill in San Francisco, and so we had to toboggan down the hill, and his was the only one with the brake. So I was leaning on the back of his, going down the hill super fast. It was so much fun. But we were tobogganing down the empty streets of San Francisco at 2 a.m, and it was just a blast.
It sounds quite amazing. It did look quite nice as well from your social media posts on it.
Yeah, definitely a lot of fun. A lot of driving though. I did most of the driving.
So we know each other, of course, from the Yes Theory community. How is it that you are in that community and know that sort of space, we'll say?
Yeah, so I was introduced to the Yes Theory guys when I was working in music at Scooter Braun's office, and these guys walked in and they were like, yeah, we made this video about Justin Bieber eating a burrito sideways, and duped the whole entire internet. And not only that, but all of the media outlets. I was like, oh, that's cool. I didn't understand the concept of YouTube at the time, and I was really confused. So I was like, okay, you guys make money doing this? I'm really confused. So when I was an intern there is when I got introduced to them, and from there, I told them, I was like, yeah, I don't really have friends here, I'm pretty new, and they introduced me to some people, and I made some cool friends in the community. And then a few months later, I was like, I should probably look up what they do on the internet and watch a video. And I went down the Yes Theory wormhole and started binging all their content, and I was like, whoa, this is so cool. I really like the concept of seeking discomfort. And the one thing I ended up noticing was that there weren't a lot of women doing that. And so I was just kind of I'm going to read all of the comments about from women on this platform. And so I kind of just started watching, reading comments and joining all of the yes groups to kind of see what the community was like and what people were talking about. And so I just kind of hung out in the background for a while and read some stuff. And yeah, that's kind of how I got into the community, figuring out what it meant to seek discomfort.
Yeah, so you said you were in the background for quite a bit, so nowadays are you more of a front runner, or do you still tend to sort of sit in the back seat and watch it all happen?
I definitely go into the Facebook groups, and I just posted in the Seattle Facebook group to see if anyone wanted to hang out. I'm a big fan of building community and meeting people. I'm a big extrovert. Even in this time of COVID, I think social distance hiking is totally fine.
Yeah.
I think that there is a way to do this and still meet people. And so I've been active where I need to be, and I'm also active in like a Yes Theory girls chat, which is really uplifting because it's just a lot of awesome women who are looking to seek discomfort. And that's kind of like where I sit now. I'm working on a lot of my own content and trying to inspire young women to step out of their comfort zones. And the problem with the internet right now is there's so many men doing cool things, but there's not enough women showcasing themselves doing cool things. And so my
Yeah.
goal is to showcase women doing cool things. So by being active in these communities, I'm able to do that and kind of like listen to what they need and see if I can help in some way.
Do you get a lot of messages from some women in the community when you post content?
I do. I do. I get a lot of really amazing messages actually. And that's one thing is like I might not be a massive creator. I might not be someone who like has hundreds and hundreds of DMs, but I'm at the point where I can still be really intimate with people who follow me and like have really cool conversations with them and kind of meet them where they're at. And so a lot of the messages are like, I'm a young girl and my dad doesn't want me to travel the world. Like I'm turning 18 next year and stuff like that. And I'm like, girl, like, is your dad living your life for you? Like, what do you want? And so trying to find a way that I can inspire young women to kind of like step out of the comfort zone of sometimes their own home and other people's judgment.
So then, with you trying to help them women push a bit more of the boundaries, did you feel or get any of that criticism from your family and friends when you started seeking this discomfort and moving around and stuff?
So my mom, I would say, is my biggest fan. Like, she's so supportive to the point where it's like maybe inhibiting. So like anything I do, she's like, yeah, that's amazing. Like I could be homeless and my mom would be so ecstatic. She'd be like, my daughter's the best homeless woman ever. She's chosen this life. I'm like, Mom, like, she's my number one fan. But the pushback that I do get is from my like friends in my hometown. They're like, wow, like you're not married. Like what you're doing is so cool. Like, I wish I could do that. But like, honestly, aren't you afraid? Like what you're doing is kind of crazy. Like, are you okay? And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm just fine. Like, so a lot of the pushback is, I would say almost sometimes internal as well, breaking down my own stigmas of like where I should be at 24 years old
Mm-hmm.
and like where I actually am and where I want to go. And so there's a lot of growth moments for myself in this because I have a lot of like stigmas, like you should be either getting your master's degree right now, or you should be like starting your career fully and working at a cubicle. And my mom, as much as she is my fan, there are moments where she's like, are you looking for a job? Like, when are you getting a job? And I'm like, this is my job. Like, this is it, Mom. This is what I do. And she's like, well, like, when are you going to get like a career sometimes? And so she doesn't really quite understand the space that I'm in,
Yeah.
but she's still excited. But there's still this like, this push of like, are you gonna get a corporate position? Like, I'm like, no, like it's not the goal. So it's so far off from the goal that it's just like, it's laughable at this point. Sometimes my own worst enemy is myself when it comes to the stigmas that I'm battling of like, is what I'm doing sustainable? Is what I'm creating going to be big enough to one day like help me and be able to help others? Like I've learned that I get in my own head a lot when I'm creating these videos and I'm like, oh my God, like, am I crazy for putting this much money into a video? Am I crazy for spending all this money on this? And like, hopefully it'll pay off one day. And so there's moments like that where I like completely like second guess myself and it's scary. It's really scary.
Yeah.
But at the same time, every time I drop a new video, I get so excited and I'm like, this is going to pay off. And when I get the messages from young girls who are like, Brooke, thank you for inspiring me. Thank you for this. And I'm like, yes, like this is paying off. Like the amount of money that I spent on creating this video has now inspired one life. And so that's enough for me to say it's paying off. I don't care really if my video gets 1 view or 1 million, as long as the person watching is left better than they were when they started. I could die tomorrow and be happy is kind of where I'm at.
What would you say then is your favorite video that you've done currently?
So I love all the things that I love all my videos. So picking one specifically is really hard. I would say my favorite video is my intro video that I made to my channel. It's like a 2-minute video. It's like why I'm doing YouTube. That one for me, that was posted for nobody else except myself. Sat on creating that video for like 6 months. That one was really hard for me because I was trying to develop a concept of why I'm even starting YouTube and why I'm deciding to ignore my student loans and attempt to create something that is much bigger than myself. So I would say that video is my favorite because I watched that one a lot just to remind myself where I was a few months ago to where I am now. And I like that one because it was really hard for me to create. I went through so many drafts of writing out the voiceover of like finding like a purpose. And a lot of that was an internal deep dive into like what I was searching for. And so a lot of that video is me just like learning about myself. And that's why I really liked that one. I would say out of all the crazy stuff that I've done right now, my favorite would be, it's a draw between the downhill video and sneaking into the Golden Globes dressed as a chef. Those two I would say are my top two right now because the Golden Globes was just sheer insanity, I think, sometimes, because I was just like the night before, like, hey, I think I'm going to try this. Like, why not? And I didn't know it was going to work. And so it did. And I was just kind of like, all right, we're going with it. Like, we are here in the Golden Globes. And I was like, this is so scary. But I had so much fun doing that because I've never done that before.
It was an insane experience for sure for you, wasn't it?
Yeah. I kind of I didn't realize actually until recently, Jay, that when I've been home for like three days, if that, like 2 nights and 3 days, but who's counting? And I am because I want to get out. But being home, I didn't realize like how much I've grown in the past 2 years living in Los Angeles and building this YouTube channel. It has been kind of mind blowing because my friends, like I talked to one of them, she's like, yeah, I'm pregnant. And I was like, oh my God, wow. Like, did I miss the train here? Like,
Yeah.
so, like, I was like, okay, like, wow. And she's like, I watch your videos, like they're so cool and they're so inspiring. Like, and so to hear my friends say that I grew up with is just kind of mind blowing because it's just this weird shift of like, I don't know. I'm living such a different life than I was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's what's really cool is like I'm now being able to reflect on that growth, and really kind of hone in on what I want to keep growing. And so, yeah, it's kind of, it's weird for sure.
So it's a completely scary ordeal. What would you say is then the biggest shock thinking back to you living there 2 years ago to you now coming back?
I think the biggest struggle for me, that's a really hard question, Jay. Because a lot of my struggles right now that I've realized are a lot of internal battles, a lot of internal insecurities that I'm battling, and none of which are from my external environment. And I think like maybe my biggest struggle in the beginning moving to Los Angeles was having a false reality of what I was going into.
Mm-hmm.
And what I thought I wanted was a corporate position working in music and helping promote music and making a lot of money, paying off my student loans, living in a nice apartment, wearing heels every day and drinking martinis on Fridays. Like I literally thought that's what I wanted. And I wanted to be like a briefcase woman. I wanted to have a briefcase. I wanted to be like basically Legally Blonde in music. And then I realized, I was like, wow, I'm really trying to push myself into a mold that I don't fit into.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where I got that idea. And so I was trying to fight that and trying to fight what I really wanted to do, which was travel and to experience the world. But I was like, first I need to have this job. I need to sell my life to music and really make a lot of money so then I can travel and then I can have fun. And so I started to realize like that's just that there's two totally different like concepts and I can't make the two match. And so that's when I kind of like had this huge turning point of like, all right, so corporate life's not for me. And so I think the biggest struggle in the beginning was really finding out what I wanted to do. And now for me, the biggest struggle is like, is this going to work? Because I'm not working for anybody. My income is negative because I'm paying people to help me with my videos sometimes, or I'm just putting money back into my YouTube. And so that's so scary because the cycle of profit is just going back into what I'm doing. And there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, it's scary because it's like, oh, do you have a retirement fund? Like, what are you going to do when your healthcare runs out? And I'm like, I will let future Brooke take care of that, you know?
It's not my problem for now. So then with that being the bad side, what's then the best thing you've realized from the 2-year difference?
The best thing I've realized, I would say, Jay, is how incredible people are. And how incredible the community I have met along that 2-year journey, how thankful I am for the people in my life. I didn't realize how long my friends had been in my life until I got back to my hometown here the other day and I voice memoed like all of them. And I was like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, I love you so much and thank you for being my friend. Like, I would say that like the biggest thing that I've realized and the thing that I'm most thankful for, and if I lost everything right now, I would never lose my friends. And that's what's really cool, is that like knowing that if I go somewhere, I always have a couch to sleep on. I always have someone to have a laugh with. And I think that's something that I am so excited that I've found in these past 2 years. It sounds so corny and sad. I've had 2 days, well, 2 nights and 3 days here in my hometown.
You really on counting, are you?
No, but in those 2 nights and 3 days, I've had the opportunity to reflect on this very quickly. And I'm very thankful for the people I've met and the people that are in my life, because each and every one of them are so special and so incredible. And if it wasn't for all of my car crashes when I moved to Los Angeles, if it wasn't for all of my like road bumps and like all of these random like problems that kept popping up in the beginning when I moved to LA, I would have never met any of these people. And so it's truly magical. So that's my biggest takeaway. That's my biggest like learning curve, is that the people that really matter to you, like how you can measure your life, I guess, and measure your success is by how many people you genuinely care about and you genuinely know deeply. And so I know a lot of people that I really love. So.
Oh, that's honestly, I wasn't expecting that as an answer, but that is probably the sweetest and best answer I've ever heard of in my life, asking that question.
Oh,
you must be very proud of not only, I mean, yourself, but sort of everyone who you have met or spoke to and helped in that.
Yeah, I'm so genuinely thankful for my friends. And if they ever watch this, I love them all so freaking much. And I like want to love as many people as possible. Like I want more people in my life, because it's really cool. It's really cool when you, like, I filmed a prom video, which will be coming out on my channel very soon. And I threw a prom, and my biggest insecurity is like, no one's going to come. Like I have like no friends, like no one's going to want to be here. And all my friends showed up and I was like,
that must have been the
wow.
best feeling in the world, was it?
It was amazing, because I was like, probably like 5 people are going to come. Yeah. All of them came, Jay. And I was like, I didn't know all of you got my message. And so it was so rewarding, and to see them happy and to have them tell me like, this was the best prom ever at like 25, 30 years old. Like that was an amazing feeling, because I was just like, I didn't know. I was like so insecure at the beginning. And so the fact that like,
Will it, won't it work? That sort of thing, yeah.
yeah. So yeah,
Oh, I'm really
that's,
looking forward to seeing that video. So then, speaking of that one, what is upcoming then? If you've got the prom, which you've sorted out, and that's coming up,
yeah.
what other stuff have you got planned and set up?
So actually, I just uploaded a premiere video today. So it's my first scheduled premiere, and it's with my friend Anna, who is a TikTok star. I taught her how to golf. I've started this new series on golfing, and a lot of people might be like, "Oh, golf, super boring,"
Yeah.
but the series was inspired by when I did the downhill longboarding video. I was like, wow, there's not a lot of women who downhill longboard. Like, I wonder what other sports there are that there's not a lot of women doing.
Mm-hmm.
And surprisingly, there's a plethora.
Yeah, it's not
And
hard to
so,
find.
yeah, I was just like, okay, like, let's see what else I can find. And so then I did parkour. And after talking to my friend Sydney Olson, uh, here's a plug. She's the #1 parkour athlete in the world. She's a complete and total badass. Like, after talking to her, she was like, yeah, for the first few years of me learning parkour, I was competing with men because they didn't have enough women to even have a women's division or women's bracket. Like, it wasn't, she was like, yeah, I went into every competition knowing that I would lose, but my goal was to be better than I was the last time and
Yeah.
to score better than I did last time. And so that story to me was like so inspiring because I wondered then, I was like, how many more women are there out there like this? Like, Sydney didn't let competing in a man's world stop her from doing what she loves. And she was like, I'm just going to compete against myself. And the sport doesn't have nearly as much women as we would like in it, but it's growing slowly. So if you're listening to this and you want to do parkour, hit me up. I'll make it happen. I'll link you with some cool people. So like, after doing that one, I was like sitting there, I was like, what did I do growing up that was like very male dominated? And I just like sat there, I was like, I did gymnastics, very female dominated. And I was like trying to think. And then I was like, golf. Like, I started golfing because my mom, she was like, hey, if you ever want to be a CEO, you need to learn how to golf. And I was like, yeah, mom, I want to be a CEO. Like, heck yeah. At that time too, I also wanted to be the president of the United States.
It's still a
So I was
possibility,
like,
to be honest, with everything
absolutely.
going on.
Yeah, like, I'm not going to completely check that one off the list.
It's on the pile.
Yeah. So, but I was like, yeah, like golf. And so my mom ended up like teaching me how to golf. And my mom, oftentimes it would just be me and her at the golf course with a bunch of dudes. And then I started to realize like, wow, this is a sport heavily male dominated by also old men who are like super creepy when you're the only girl at the driving range. And they're like, hey, so, that's a nice swing you got there, smoking their cigar. And you're like, yeah, okay. So you're like, do you want to be my friend or like, what's your goal here?
Like, carry all my putts, please.
Yeah. So it's just like, I then started to deep dive into that and I realized like, there's a video here. There's a series here to showcase really cool women on the golf course. And nobody wants to watch golf. Like, it's not like, maybe there's a lot of people who like to watch golf, but me personally don't love the sport. It's not utterly entertaining to watch. To play with my friends, it's so fun. And so I hit up my friend Anna and I was like, hey, would you want to play golf with me for a video? And she was like, absolutely. So we did a video together that is going to be dropping very soon, literally tomorrow at 11 a.m. So I'm really stoked about that because when I met Anna too, she was at 100K on TikTok and she's like, yeah, I'm like low key a TikToker. Now she's at 2 million, like 2.2 million on TikTok. Yeah, 20K on YouTube and like almost 200K on Instagram. And I'm like, girl, that is, wow.
Yeah, that's not like an easy feat.
Yeah, in almost a year, she's developed this incredible fan base that is mostly women. And she's inspiring young girls to be themselves and to be confident in the fact that they're might not be wearing all their makeup or like their eyebrows might not be on or whatever. And like their hair might look like mine right now. But Anna's inspiring so many, but millions now, we can say with
Yeah.
plural, to be confident in themselves. And so I was like, Anna, like, let's do a video. Let's, like, why not? And so we had so much fun creating this. And I just showed it to her last night, and she like called me and was like, ah, this is the best video ever. And so that made me so excited that she loved it, and she loved how she was showcased in it. And so I'm very excited that like I was able to highlight Anna in a really incredible way, because she deserves it after all the work that she's putting into this incredible cause of like helping young girls. Is just like awesome to be a part of. So that's kind of like what I'm working on right now, is like finding really dope women and showcasing them
Mm-hmm.
on my channel. I think is like where my channel's headed for the next few months, is doing things that women are heavily like underrepresented in, and showcasing incredible women who are just changing the game in so many different facets. So
You post a lot about that on your Instagram, don't you?
yeah,
What sort of series is that called on your Instagram?
Women Crush Wednesday. So I just started Women Crush Wednesday, and this is going to be a series that goes on until maybe I die, honestly, because there's not enough Wednesdays in the world, in a lifetime, to showcase how incredible women are. And so my goal is to showcase women of all walks of life who are doing things that are uplifting each other. I find it really hard to Google like if you Google like women to look up to, like there's always like just a blog that was written in like 2012, and you're like, okay. But
Yeah.
I really want like a current update constantly of like women I should be following, women that are just crushing it. And so this past week, my friend Sarah was my Women Crush Wednesday, because she is a young Muslim female who is taking up extreme sports like parkour, and not let her traditional wear hold her back from doing a sport that is not only like fucking hard, but what is also male dominated. So for her to find this confidence inside her and be like, no, I want to do this sport. I'm going to find a way to do it by like, regardless of my religion, I'm going to still follow my guidelines, but I'm going to still be really awesome at this sport, is so
Yeah.
inspiring. And so I like, regardless of who you are, that just like, if you're male or female or like whatever you identify as, I think that like Sarah as a human being is just incredible. So I think that sharing these women of all walks of life, of all sizes in following, and is so important. So that's kind of what I'm working on that front as well. So
It's good. It's good to showcase like and highlight all these like different areas, and it's great for people as well to develop in themselves. That sort of defiance to what everyone sees of them, what they think they're capable of. And it's the whole reason I'm doing sort of my little talk podcast thing here, because it all complements me sort of on my end goal, and the end goal is, you know, my first professional white collar boxing event, which, you know, if you asked me a year ago, I'd have said that's the stupidest idea ever. I'm not getting in a ring. But here I am about to get in a ring in a few months' time, hopefully, and have my first fight. And it was all because of that defiance of I've watched people who I've been inspired by or who I've identified as in a sense, and then you know friends of mine putting us down, saying that's completely impossible, and then so here I am now proving them that it's completely possible. So it's important to showcase that defiance in people, and that sort of that drive they have to definitely push themselves that little bit further.
yeah. Also, I love the fact that you have like a boxing bag in your garage.
Yeah. For anyone who can't see or
It's
who is
so
watching this, just a
funny.
boxing. Yeah, it's just like right next to me with the gloves and the belt.
You've also inspired me. I've been looking for I'm taking up boxing when I get back to LA for a month. So yeah. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do month-long challenges, but I'm also gonna do day challenges. So I'm gonna pick up um, BMX in a day, and then I'm gonna do like boxing in a month because like that's just a good workout, you know.
Yeah, yeah, it's why I mainly started, was because, you know, it benefits fitness phenomenally. I mean, I don't think you'd win a fight quite like that, but it gives someone a
Get
run for the
scared.
money.
Get scared.
Give him the old 1-2.
Just like go the old one too. Just a little, hey, little that
Like a proper old-fashioned fight, that is.
jab, right.
Yeah, if it
So,
never come to my centre and start pulling out their moves, you would be out of the door.
I don't know. I don't know. It could scare some people.
Oh, look at how huge you are. I wouldn't want to mess with you.
Oh wait. Wait, how do they do that? That's how they do.
Wonderful.
But yeah, I love that concept of like, I love the concept of like people thinking like, oh, that's absurd. And then you just going and proving them wrong. It's it's so motivating sometimes.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, yeah, you know what? Like maybe I prove you wrong, but even if I don't prove you wrong, I still tried, you know, and I still grew from that experience. And so it's kind of like, regardless of whatever way it goes, like you're still proving someone wrong because you still have the courage to get in the ring. You still have the courage to even attempt. And I think that's where a lot of people stop, is like when they have to muster up the courage to even start. And so the fact that you were like, yeah, like I'm going to find the courage to start this and to execute and to do it is so massive. Like that's just, it speaks volumes to who you are. And so I think that's just so beautiful.
It all started because I put it back for ages to start the like initial training for it. But as soon as I said I need to do something publicly and then I can't back out of it, that first start was the worst. I think it took us from that blind enrage where I sent the first application email and I said this is what I'm going to do. From then talking to the guy, going back and forth to then organise it, I was so keen and so ready to just back out. So until I made a public Facebook post saying this is what I'm doing this year, I had every right to back out. But now I can't. But because now I've started and I got the ball rolling, every session I have with my personal trainer is insane. Every boxercise class, every sparring session I have is just phenomenal, and it leaves me coming out feeling so much better in myself than I ever did before. And then I haven't even had the fight yet, but I can see then that change in people's mentality when it comes towards us. I used to be very easily pushed about, very easily looked down upon, and, you know, digs left, right and centre, verbally or physically. Now that I've started all this and I've posted some content on my Instagram or on my YouTube or on Facebook, just of clips of me either at class or practicing, all of the comments have been quieted. All of them just seem to be settled, and there doesn't seem to be any negative ones, at least, that get said anymore, which is then great in a sense that it's not fuel they can now attack me with, and it's therapeutic in a sense for me to know that you can't say anything to us. Not only, like, I haven't had the fight, but you're already quietened by how determined and how much better I've got before the fight.
Yeah, I love that. I'm just like, that's so inspiring, Jay. Like I honestly, like, I think more people need to hear that story. How are you documenting this? Like, what does this process for you look like?
So for me, the process really is every now and then I'll do a training video or little monthly updates or recaps. I've got my Instagram story, which sort of progresses it all. But with these Let's Talks, with other little bits and bobs that I do, either trying to go skiing properly, doing a workout with someone else, random discomfort trips, hiking up mountains, which I've just came back from in the weekend.
Yeah, that sounds so cool.
Yeah, it was mad. We climbed like half the size of the Alps. So I think we got up to about 3,000 feet, and the Alps are about 4,800. So we literally, the video I've got is literally us just rolling our hands through the clouds. Like, it was, it was freezing, so I was a little bit miserable, but I
But it was
was happy
epic.
enough. Yeah, I was happy enough to be there. And it's just sort of, it's all this, it's all going into one big sort of, it's a bunch of little videos, but at the end there'll be one big documentary, and I'll talk about my year. Well, it's going to be 2 years now. It was meant to be just this year, but pandemics are a thing. So, it'll be just talking over the last 2 years, how I've developed not only mentally, but physically in the boxing. Mentally, how I've managed to develop myself for the boxing, but just as an individual and as a person, the change I've had. And like you were saying with how when you came home, you noticed that difference from when you left. There's a lot of times, even in just such a short space of time, I can see a massive change in myself. The past few months I've massively came on. Over the past year of training, I've massively came on. And it's nice seeing that change. It's nice hearing the positivity people are given from you. This entire weekend of hiking and trekking and traveling has all been done via the S Theory community. I met up with a bunch of strangers to go to Alton Towers, which was then immediately followed by a week at the Peak District with a bunch of other random strangers, and then a week at the Lake District with again a bunch of random strangers. And it's nice to then hear, because a lot of that was their first meetups, so a lot of it was really nice comments to me about how welcoming I made them feel. There's a girl called Amber, I'm pretty sure I can say her name, called Amber, who it was really nice and said to us that I'd given her a lot more confidence when she goes travelling, because she used to backpack India before pandemic, and she said I've given her a lot more confidence in meeting up with men and being around the male species, which is really nice. And it's I feel great that I can help in little ways, make people feel a little bit better. I can lead them in certain ways. A lot of people have said they sort of see themselves in me, and it's weird. It's so weird, but it's really nice because I see myself in them. They are me at the start. I've got a massive journey to do. I'm nowhere near done. I'm nowhere near halfway. But I've done that first step, which is always the hardest. They are doing their first step, and they're always so grateful that it's me that they're taking that first step with, because I can show them what it's like, how to do stuff, how to feel confident and comfortable, and I really put everything out there to make either their first Yes Theory meetup or their first just moment of discomfort a really great and pleasurable one, where it's crazy enough that they've pushed themselves, but it's not crazy enough that they're really terrified about health repercussions. And
Yeah, that's, I love that concept. I keep saying that sentence, um, of being a part of someone's start, being a part, helping them jumpstart, and being there to see them take those first steps is so incredible. And to know that it's very rewarding to know that you help someone just try something they've never done before, that they never thought was possible. And that is just that's the reason I'm doing what I'm doing as well, is just like connecting with people and helping them build this confidence that it's sometimes hard for me to find. Like
Yeah.
sometimes starting is still even hard. Like I don't like not everyone has, no one has it dialed. Like no one has this magic sauce. It's just at the end of the day, like you can choose to wake up and say, I don't want to do, or you can choose to say, I want to accomplish this today. And I'm going to try. But yeah, Jay, I think that like helping and being a part of people's journeys is something that more people need. And I'm so excited to hear that you're doing that, and to hear that you are helping, especially like the story of the young woman who was like afraid to be like with a bunch of dudes. Like that's a fear of mine as well. Like sometimes I'm like, oh shoot, like I have to go hang out with a bunch of guys. Oh my God, like what's gonna happen? Like,
Yeah.
sometimes I get scared, and it is something that crosses my mind, but I'm now in a place where I'm confident to be like, yo, what's up? Like, and to be confident in the fact that I might be the only woman, but that's okay. Like at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. So what matters is like the relationship that we build with people.
Which it is important because you see that change in men and women a lot. You see that sort of almost disconnect. We've mentioned it when you went to or snuck into the Logan Paul and KSI boxing match. Your video on it is fantastic and almost identical to another YouTube creator, but you got a lot of backlash on how you got in while he got a bunch of praise. And so you can see that difference in the views of the sexes, which is why I love how you're putting out this content and managing to show that you can do it as well.
I like that you brought that up. It's in the video as well. You see these guys. I edit it in a very comedic fashion because I don't believe in like making people look bad regardless of what they say sometimes. I really like to pull on like the comedic strings of something and be like, that's kind of like ridiculous. But even the guys in the video, they were like, oh, how'd you get here? Like, did you sleep with someone? Was it like your ex-boyfriend? Like, no, you definitely slept with someone. Like, there's no way you got these tickets. Like, I was like, nope, definitely didn't sleep with anybody. Like, would you believe me if I got myself here? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, great. So that whole idea, of also being like kind of put on blast in my face sometimes is kind of like, really? Like, do you guys hear yourself right now? Like, that's what I'm combating. That's why I'm here, is like, I want to make it safe for women to do what they want. I want to change the way that people, like, I want that boys will be boys mentality to be a girls will be girls mentality.
Yeah.
Of like we don't have to be a lady. Like, you don't have to be like proper. Like, there is always a time and place maybe to use your manners in a napkin, and that goes for everybody.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's not just a woman. And so I'm trying to find a way to combat this, like this mentality that women has been ingrained in our brains for a very long time. Like, you have to be this, you have to be this. Like, oh, if you're not this, you're not pretty, you're not going to find a husband. All of those things, like, at the end of the day, those don't matter. The relationships that you form with people are what really matters. And there's also another like piece of that is like, you can be friends with guys and not date them. Like, you can have guy friends, you know. And like, growing up, I grew up in the church, and where I was told, like, you can't be friends with guys. Like, when you're married, you can't be friends with men because bad things happen. And I'm like, what? That's so wrong. That is so wrong on so many levels, because like, I can be friends with guys. I can be like, some of my closest friends are dudes, and that's fine. Like, I shouldn't be viewed differently for that. So that's kind of like, I want young women to know that. I want young women to know that like, diversity in your friend group is so important. If you're always just hanging out with the same people, you're gonna start to become them. And like, I'm a big fan of the quote of like, the 5 people that you hang around with are a reflection on you, kind of thing, of like, you are made up of those 5 people.
Yeah.
So the more diverse and the more perspective you have, and the people that are closest to you, the smarter you become, the more able you become, and the more perspective you get in life. And so that, I think, is like the kaleidoscope eye of like, how do you view the world? You have to make sure that you see every angle. And if everyone in your group only sees the same angle, nobody's growing. So making sure you surround yourself with people who are going to push you, who believe in you. Not saying you have to have like 5 of them. Maybe you have 6. Maybe you have 12. Like,
Yeah.
maybe you're running around like Jesus with disciples. Like, you know. But the concept of making sure that you're seeing every angle is so important, and something I think that is hard for a lot of people to do. And so, yeah, I think the Yes Theory community does a great job in bringing the most random humans together, the most different people together, and bonding over one thing. And that's the idea of stepping out of our comfort zones and growing. And so I think that's honestly why I got hooked, because the community is so contagious in that way of like, growing, and constant growth is so important. And we only have one life. So how are we going to live it, you know?
The way I got into it is quite similar, but it took me a little bit of time to get there. From when I went travelling, I was able to backpack through Europe using the Yes Theory community, their
Isn't that
kindness
cool?
of letting me stay, taking me around, showing me the sights and stuff. And that then thrill of my first meetups to be that positive and that kind, I wanted that for almost everyone else in the community. I feel like it is a great community and everyone does want to have these discomfort moods. Everyone does want to get out there and try these things, but a lot of people in the community, I feel, are still terrified, as said earlier, to make that first step. So to me, as soon as I came back from travelling, I said, I'm going to do as much as I can in England to do as many group organisers as I can, to find people who've never done meetups before, take them on the first trips, and do as much as I can to give them just a great experience and a great time. And funny you should say the group of 5 thing. So the Peak District, which was last week for me, there was 6 of us because of course COVID rules were only allowed groups of 6. So there was me and 5 others, 3 of which it was their first meetup, and it was just such a diverse group of people. We had someone who worked in the circus, a woman who had just got proposed to and she had a fiance, a girl who dropped out of doing her PhD to do these thrill-seeking, life-changing events, and another guy who was so quiet and anxious and worried and socially awkward, as I'll take the words out of his mouth. And you just mashed us all together, and somehow, in a weird sense, we all worked. We all had the same drive and the same goal of, we all want to do things, get out of our comfort zone, have fun, and it was just incredible learning the different backgrounds of everyone and what we shared personally, what we didn't share, what we disagreed on, what we agreed on. But we had just such a great week travelling and staying even in the accommodation and going out at times. It was phenomenal to think all of us could just mix and merge so well, and it was fantastic, especially when you think the shy gentleman, how quiet he was at the very start, became in a sense the bunt of all the jokes. The way he said things, the way he talked, the stuff he knew and spoke about were just so naturally funny for us all. He then loved being a part of that. For someone who, as he said, didn't speak very well, has trouble getting amongst it, to then be amongst it and almost be that centre of attention in such a positive way. It wasn't, being horrible to him, it was such a positive way. It was great for him then to see how talkative he was at the end, how engaged he got. And then because there was a mix of two girls and us four lads, you had a good mix of different humour. So it wasn't all just like lads. You had some female banter in there, but the girls kept up with us, and then we kept up with them. And we did things, if it was a group of lads, we would have never done. There's a game we played called Sock Off, which is basically where you have to get the sock off someone's foot, and that's it. There's no other rules. You can do whatever you want, be as cruel
That's
as you
so
want.
British.
I popped my shoulder out playing that game because there was no rules. I got picked up and slung on the ground, all to get a guy's sock off his foot. And we would have never ever done that if we didn't have Katie, who was the gymnast who joined us. So us lads would have probably just sat there and played Uno or cards all night, but because of that sock off game, physically it got us all closer together because we have to fight each other. But after that, I think as a group, it really bonded us. And that
We had to fight, and we got closer together. We had to beat the shit out of each other, and we got closer.
You pop my shoulder out, and now you're my best friend.
I love you. So now if you want to be Jay's friend, just punch him in the shoulder.
Take my sock off and punch us.
Dobby's a free man. I love that story. It brings me a lot of joy. I think it's so magical, and especially during a time where meeting people this year has been so limited. It's really cool to know that people are still able to build these incredible bonds, and lifelong friendships. So I think it's beautiful what you're doing, Jay. I think what you're working on is amazing. And I think for anybody else out there listening, I think that you can make an impact in your town, whether you think so or not. Like me sitting here in my hometown for 2 nights and 3 days.
12 hours, 20 minutes.
12 hours, 45 seconds, and like, I've realized I've been reconnecting with a lot of my friends, and I've realized they don't know the concept of seeking discomfort. They don't know the concept of not letting their fears dictate the life that they want to live. And when I left to move to Los Angeles, I had this like slogan that I told myself. I was like, capitalize on your coordinates. No matter where you are, you can be who you want to be. You can make an impact. And it's all whether or not you're willing to put in the time. And that is what's so important, is the first 5 minutes of you starting something, the first hour of you starting something is so important, because that gets the ball rolling. But you have to be willing to put in countless hours to keep striving to do something and create something amazing. And whether you are in Los Angeles, whether you are in England, in a town that I have no idea where you live, James. So. Somewhere in another country, whether you are in like a rural town and you know everybody in your town, what can you do to bring joy to them in that day? What can you do? And so for me, I've been brainstorming a lot of like, what can I do in my hometown to like make it better? How can I leave this place when I go back to LA, instead of being so excited to leave, even though I am? What can I do to leave this place a little bit better than I found it and when it found me? And so how can I bring joy maybe to the neighborhood? So that's kind of like where I'm at, is like, what can we do? So yeah, I think like a lot of times people are the small excuses people tell themselves of why they can't start something or why they can't go and get to know other people. They're so small, but yet those small excuses we tell ourselves have such a large impact on the macro outcome of where we want to be. So whether it's like, oh, I don't have the right outfit to do that, that's really going to stop you. Or like, who's going to this meeting? Like,
yeah,
like if someone invites you somewhere and you ask who's going, and you're kind of like, it's kind of like, I like me. I want you to be there because I invited you. And if that matters, then like
Screw everyone else.
why should that even matter, you know? Um, or if it's like, oh, like I don't have anyone to go or bring, like I can't go. Or like my friends don't want to come with me. I can't go alone. Like those small excuses hold you back from meeting new people, from doing all these things. When I snuck into the Golden Globes, what I learned was I left with friends. I showed up with nobody. I left with friends. And this happens constantly when I do things alone. And what I found is I always leave knowing someone a little bit better. And that is so important. Whether or not I succeed or not, there's always someone I meet. And so you're never really alone because you don't have a familiar face. A familiar face is only made when you didn't know them before. And so gaining the courage to build something where you're at and to do something cool where you're at is always so hard, because you can be like, oh, like nobody in my town like wants to do this. There's so many people in your town that want to seek discomfort. There's so many people in your town that don't even know what seeking discomfort means and that need to know, or that don't even know that they want to know, but they want to know. The fact that our community in the Seek Discomfort community has this ability to even know what this concept means,
Yeah.
and the theory of saying yes means, is beneficial regardless of if you're sharing it with people or not. The fact that you are aware of these 4 words, seeking discomfort and yes theory, you have the ability to share that with people. Everywhere I go, I always share 7 minutes of yes in 2 years, or like that video. I always share that video to my friends. And like, if you're feeling bad about yourself, like go follow this video. I literally send that to everybody. It's almost like a prescription. I watch it over and over again when I forget why I'm doing what I'm doing as well. And so there's so much benefit into what the guys have created, and not enough people, not like, we haven't reached the whole world yet, so we're not done.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important to remember that everybody in your community matters, all the way down to the old neighbor that you have next door. Like, everybody matters, and that video is relatable to everybody. It can meet them where they're at. So yeah,
It's always been the best thing that I've thought is I enjoy going places with people I know because I get to share the experience. But I always feel I'm more in my element when I do something alone, because then you're forced almost internally to speak to strangers, to meet someone, to get that connection. If I go with someone I know, then I'll meet almost no one new. But if I go alone, I'll, like you said, come back with friends.
my best friend with a benefit.
Yeah.
I think one thing I realized about the relationship that I've built with him is that, like, everywhere we go, we always meet new people. And we have this ability as a team to not make people feel like we're a couple or that we're together, but to make them feel included. And I think a lot of that comes, like, I've never had that with someone before. And so that cool feeling of like finding, like, even if you do want to travel alone, but if you do want to travel with someone, making sure that the person that you're traveling with is on the same page of like, how many people can we meet?
Yeah.
You know, how many people can we impact, regardless of, like, a lot of times, like, it's harder to travel in large groups and get to know people because it's intimidating for someone to come up to a large group. But even maybe in a group of 2 or a group of 3, it's really cool because you can still meet new people, but you can also branch off, meet new people, and come back, you know? And so finding people or helping people understand how to do that and build that kind of relationship with people is so cool. And something I've learned very recently that can be done, because I used to be like, I got to do this alone.
Yeah,
Like,
always independent.
yeah. And so, like, alone or together still can be very strong, very, very strong. But also, if I would have had someone with me sneaking into the Golden Globes, I don't think I would have done as well as I did alone.
No, yeah, I think it's probably better doing something like that on your own. But then at least you know you've got support from them in the background as they, sit in the car.
Exactly. My chauffeur, Kate, was my partner in crime in that video, and she was awesome. I called her literally 30 minutes before I had to go, and I was like, "Hey, can you take me to the hotel?" Like, and she's like, "I'll be there." Like, I can count on Kate for anything, like anything, which is
just
incredible.
Like accepting they are about how crazy of an idea it is. Just that, oh yeah, I'll be there in 2 minutes.
My friend Kate, she always tells me, she's like, "Yeah, anything you tell me, I don't doubt ever." Like, any idea that I come up with, she doesn't doubt remotely at all. She's just like, "Okay, cool." She's never really surprised anymore. She's like, "Wow, that was a good story." Like, okay. Like, and she's not really like, she's just kind of like, she's kind of like, "I expect a little bit more. Like, what else you got in there?" kind of thing. So it's cool that my friends are no longer like wooed by, like, awestruck by the things that I have chosen to do. They're more so like, "All right, cool. How can I help now?" So it's kind of cool that I've like inspired that kind of dialogue between them, and that kind of trust, and that kind of craziness in them, which is funny. So yeah, thank you again for having me, and I love hearing about your adventures, and I'm so excited to when I get to come to England and hopefully surf on your couch.
Of course, there's always a spot.
So there's always a spot wherever I'm at here in the US. Right now I'm toying with like living in my car, so I have an extra hammock, Jay.
Brilliant. I'll pitch it up. I'll be right there.
So you're always welcome here. There's a whole community with welcome arms that are just waiting for your arrival. So when COVID clears up, we'll link up and wherever we choose. And so I'm super excited.
Of course, I'm looking forward, especially to have you on the undercard of the boxing match. You know, you've got to come over for some training, some proper training, not just the
I got boxing shorts too.
Oh yeah, actually.
Wait, I literally have boxing shorts because my friend, he gave them to me. I was like, "What are these?" He's like, "Oh, it was like a brand deal." The tag's still on them. They're super cute and white. I'm so ready.
There you go.
The shorts are all you need, right? Like, you don't need gloves.
No, yeah. Basically, bare hands, absolutely fine. If anything, it's more of an interesting fight that way. So thanks for watching that episode or listening to the podcast. If you listen to it on Spotify, there'll be links to all of Brooke's pages in the descriptions below. Please go check her out and help her with everything she's doing. Keep tuned for any collaborations that might happen between me and her when COVID ends, and always stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks very much. We can pretend that time is still.
What's up, guys? Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, wherever the buttons are, where my fingers are. Please do whatever they do on this YouTube thing. I'm so excited to share my journey with you. And if you have an idea for my bucket list or something that you would like to see me do, please drop it in the comments, and I will gladly accept your challenge. So hopefully see you guys next week. And yeah, don't let fear dictate the life that you want to live.